In this installment of our review of the Shadows of the Empire, we will discuss the video game adaptation, which was released on the Nintendo 64 and later ported to PC. While not entirely canon to the official Shadows of the Empire storyline, the game does follow the general flow of the narrative, adding in some expansion and adaptive liberty here and there. While Dash Rendar is a secondary character in the book, he is front and center in the game, and provides some greater detail to some throwaway details given in the novelization. Let's dive in. Before getting into the mechanics of the game, let's go through the plot. The game starts on Hoth as the Outrider arrives in system with a shipment of supplies for the rebellion. While offloading supplies, the Empire arrives. Han Solo, an old acquaintance of Dash's, offers him a spot in Rogue Squadron for the Battle of Hoth in order to buy the rebellion time to evacuate. Knowing that he needs to buy himself time for Lebo to load cargo onto the Outrider, Dash accepts the offer and flies in the battle. This opening level is one of the most beloved, best remembered, and has aged the best over the years. The battle starts out simple, shooting down probe droids, and continues to escalate to fighting against a fleet of AT-ATs. The battle ends with the destruction of the shield generator. This is followed by Dash's evacuation from Echo Base, which introduces the largest form of gameplay by far, a third-person shooter. The rebellion has abandoned Hoth, leaving Dash behind with a base full of Imperial snowtroopers. The mission opens with the Millennium Falcon blasting out of the hangar, with Darth Vader mysteriously absent, and Dash is left to restart the backup generators so that the Outrider can leave the hangar. The mission concludes with an epic confrontation with an AT-ST from an on-foot perspective. This battle was truly daunting the first time I played it, and I'm sure I wasn't alone. After learning the mechanics of the game, you realize the battle is really not that hard, though it can be time-consuming. With the AT-ST eliminated, Dash is able to make his escape from Hoth. This leads the player to the final mission of Part 1, which features an escape from the asteroid field encircling Hoth while also dodging TIE fighters. This is a fun rail shooter mission that sees the player shooting down TIE fighters and TIE bombers and the special asteroid on occasion, as Lebo navigates the Outrider out of the asteroid field. Once he escapes the field, he jumps into hyperspace, and we begin Part 2, In Search of Boba Fett. This chapter consists of the backstory to Dash's search for Han Solo, which is spoken of briefly in the novelization, and which the results are a major part of the book. Unable to locate Fett directly, Dash and Lebo reason that one of his biggest rivals, IG-88, who is repairing his ship at Ord Mantell, might know where to find the bounty hunter. The mission to find IG-88 takes place on Ord Mantell, and consists of Dash riding train cars through the junkyards of the planet, hopping from car to car and fighting off mercenaries. This is a really fun mission, if not frustrating at times due to the sluggishness of the controls. More on that later. It ends with a fight against the assassin droid himself, another noteworthy boss battle that probably scared a number of kids back in the day. IG-88, in his hubris, reveals Boba Fett's location in the Jar system. Dash sends this location to Lando, who relays it to Leia in the novelization. While they await confirmation, Dash goes to the Imperial moon of Gaul in the Jar system and hunts for Boba Fett himself. During the mission, Dash is forced to traverse the landscape of Gaul before gaining access to the jetpack. He finds the bounty hunter awaiting repairs to his ship, which sustained damage from IG-88. Dash confronts him, and the two fight in the hangar with Dash emerging victorious, which leads to Fett powering up Slave 1. Dash fights the bounty hunter's ship, disabling it and allowing Luke, Leia, and Lando to get there in the novelization. Despite all the effort put into locating Boba Fett, the bounty hunter manages to escape with his cargo. After learning the attempted assassination of Luke above Gaul, which is detailed in the novelization, Leia hires Dash to watch over Luke. Reasoning that eventually Boba Fett will bring Han to Tatooine, Luke returns to the planet to continue his training at Obi-Wan's hut. Dash follows him and hangs out at nearby Mos Eisley. While there, he overhears a swoop gang discussing their plans to kill Luke on Jabba's orders. Here, we see a fourth gameplay style, as Dash commandeers his own swoop and races across the desert to save Luke. This is a chaotic mission that must be done at breakneck speeds. Go too fast, and you're sure to crash. Go too slow, and the gang will reach Luke before you. After defeating all the swoop gang members, he arrives at Obi-Wan's hut, and the two discuss their next move. Luke learns something important is being kept on a transport ship called the Suprosa. Dash escorts Luke to the ship and goes aboard alone. He makes his way through the ship on foot, returning to the third-person shooter style, and locates a supercomputer on board the transport. He downloads the plans for the second Death Star after fighting a transport droid. This obviously is a major departure from the canon events which dictate that the second Death Star plans were stolen by Bothans and not Dash. This mission is a run-of-the-mill shooter mission with really nothing special about it. This starts the final part of the game where the rebels turn their sights on Shizor and infiltrate Coruscant to rescue Leia, who has been captured by the Dark Prince. The first mission sees Dash working his way through the sewers of Imperial City. This is a disgusting mission to see, with the entire environment consisting of varying shades of brown and gray, exactly what you'd expect an elaborate sewer complex to look like. This mission is noteworthy for its final boss, the giant Dianoga. This is a frustrating and terrifying mission that sees Dash forced to use his jetpack to move in and out of the sewer water to attack the giant Dianoga. With the creature finally dead, Dash gains access to Shizor's palace. Dash makes his way through the palace, fighting Imperial guards and security droids until he reaches the space elevator that connects the palace to Shizor's skyhook in space. He places explosions along the connecting elevator to separate the two. On his way out, Shizor unleashes one of his most prized possessions on Dash, his gladiator droid. This final boss fight is by far the hardest challenge of the game. The initial stage is not that hard, resembling the fight against the AT-ST from the first on-foot mission. However, once defeating the droid, it rises once again as a floating upper body, meaning it's harder to hit now. Adding to the new difficulty is the collapse of the floor into a maze structure with the droid floating above the maze. After defeating the droid for a second time, the third stage is engaged, which is just the head. The final stage is really difficult because the droid head is impossible to hit without risking taking damage yourself. Once the droid is finally defeated, Dash takes to space for the final mission and another type of gameplay: free roaming space combat. Shizor has escaped the planet in his skyhook, and the only way to end his threat is to destroy the floating space station. Complicating matters is the arrival of a Star Destroyer sent by Darth Vader himself after discovering Shizor's duplicity. In order to destroy the skyhook, Dash needs to travel down 4 long entry points in the station and launch a missile at the core in the center, all while being assaulted by Star Vipers. Dash successfully destroys the skyhook, but ostensibly is unable to make it out of the explosion in time and dies. After the game, Luke and Leia discuss Dash's sacrifice and what he was able to accomplish for the rebellion. After the credits, it is revealed to us that Dash actually engaged the Outriders' hyperdrive at the last minute and escaped the explosion. He explains to Lebo that it's best to be remembered as a martyr than to be expected to continually sacrifice for a cause. This was a really good, if not incredibly flawed game. What's interesting about Shadows of the Empire is that one of its biggest flaws is actually what makes the game as important as it is in the video game history. Shadow's biggest flaw is all the different types of gameplay it features. In one game, you have a land-based flight simulator, a third-person shooter, a rail shooter, a racing simulator, and space-based flight simulator. That's 5 different game styles in a single game. And you know what they say about doing a lot of things? When you try to do 5 things really well, you end up doing nothing really well. This game is fun, but it has issues that can frustrate at times. The Battle of Hoth segment is probably the most beloved section of the game, but the controls can be sluggish and wonky at times. The third-person shooter sections are the most criticized, both because they are the most prevalent in the game and because they have the biggest problems. The controls are imprecise and have a quality I can only describe as mushy. Both of those problems lead to numerous instances of falling off the edges of the levels or constantly being open to enemy fire. The swoop bike section is hectic and hard to follow at times. The controls can only be described as controls in the most generous way. You're more likely to crash into the wall and die in the flaming wreckage of your swoop than to complete your mission. Once you get the hang of it, it becomes only minorly infuriating, and you don't crash quite so often. Finally, the last mission gives you full control over the Outrider and features aerial maneuvering and combat, another mode that could have been tweaked and improved. So, after all the criticism, why is this game worth talking about? Why is this game still held in such high regard? Because of what came from it. Shadows of the Empire was created early in the N64's lifestyle, being one of the first 10 games released for the new system. When the game was being created, there was very little that was known about the system's capabilities or features. The game designers didn't even know what the controller would look like. The most they were given was the opportunity to go into a room for a short period of time and put their hands into a box and feel the controller. Imagine having controllers that look like this for half a dozen systems, then sticking your hands into a box and feeling this thing, and then being told to go design a game that utilizes that controller. Despite this significant hurdle, the game designers were able to put together a coherent, entertaining experience and managed to lay the groundwork for some excellent games down the line. The Battle of Hoth and Skyhook battle sections were repurposed into a complete Star Wars flight simulator called Rogue Squadron, and followed up by Naboo Starfighter. The swoop bike chase segment was taken and repurposed into the racing game Episode 1 Pod Racer. The shooting segment served as a good platform that could be perfected into one of the best and most beloved shooters on the N64, GoldenEye. All of these excellent games were able to do what Shadows of the Empire was unable to do: focus on one kind of gameplay and perfect it. Shadows of the Empire walked so that all these other games could run, and for that it deserves its place in gaming history. One of the best things about this game was the soundtrack. Instead of recycling the existing John Williams score, Lucasfilm commissioned the production of an entirely new soundtrack from Joel McNeely. There is a definite connection between the music for Shadows of the Empire and music from the films, but it has its own attitude and feel to it, and that helps to really establish the game as its own chapter of the Star Wars mythos. If you've never listened to the soundtrack for the game, I highly recommend it. Shadows of the Empire is a game with flaws. I don't think anyone, even its most ardent lovers, would ever argue that point. However, despite all its problems, it's still a very fun game and worth a playthrough, especially if you want to get the full spectrum of the Shadows of the Empire experience. The game, while embellishing on some of the events, provides background and a fuller experience for the storyline. It's an old game and harder to get a hold of, but there are ways to play it even today. If you haven't played it, make sure to check it out. If you have, what's your favorite level? Let me know down below. Next time, we'll discuss the comics associated with the project. Thanks for watching.